So Warren Buffett, right?
Yeah.
This guy made a bet with some hedge fund gurus.
Yep.
What exactly was the nature of the bet that they made with this guy, and how did that turn out?
I am so excited you asked, because not only is this cutting edge news, I have not even covered this on my show yet.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you are getting a scoop.
Yes.
So your listeners are going to hear it first.
Yes.
And I spent 3 hours today researching this because I found a mathematical problem in the media. And it was freaking me out and I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
I finally cracked the code. But
Yeah.
so this goes way back. And if you want to read everything you could ever want to know about this, you want to go to BerkshireHathaway.com. That's one of the companies that Warren Buffett owns.
Berkshire Hathaway.
BerkshireHathaway.com /letters/2016 LTR for the word letter.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. So at the end of every year, Warren Buffett, by tradition, now publishes a letter. And in the beginning of 2017, he wrote this open letter to the public, 28 pages of his thoughts.
Ooh. Okay.
And this summarizes the whole thing. And I'm going to use this as a big part of my source for what I'm going to talk about the next few minutes.
All right.
But back in 2005, he had been very publicly trashing hedge funds.
Oh, okay.
If you don't know what a hedge fund is, and I'm going to try to skim this. I've done full episodes, an entire 40-minute segment on a hedge fund. But a hedge fund is basically a really fancy mutual fund for people that have millions and millions of dollars.
Okay.
The single biggest problem with hedge funds is their expense structure, which is called 2 and 20.
Okay.
So they collect 2% per year from you to manage your funds, and then they collect 20% of the upside if it goes up.
Ooh.
So if you make an average stock market return of 10%, you pay them 2% plus 20% of the 10%, another 2%. They make 4%, you make 6%. So they've got to outperform the market by quite a bit.
Yeah, they have to do something spectacular for that to be even
14, 15, 16% just for you to break even because of the incredibly high expenses. That's a problem.
Okay. Yeah.
So Warren Buffett had talked about that and how, in his opinion, the ultimate way to make money, and I agree with him, is for you to research and invest and buy your own stocks.
Yeah. Index funds.
However, that takes a lot of knowledge, expertise, effort, time, money. And for most people, you're just never going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
You just have the intellectual knowledge, the capacity, the experience with doing it, and it's not going to work out. But that is the best way to do it, especially if you're Warren Buffett. Yeah. So for most
people, you got a lot of money anyway.
Yeah. And for most people, the single best way to make money in investments in stocks and or bonds and other investments is to own mutual funds, specifically index funds, which again,
I mean, that's what I've always seen that, index funds.
You're right. It's index funds. I agree with you. And so Warren Buffett was making this comparison with how awful hedge funds are and how wonderful index funds are. And so he laid down the gauntlet and he said, I will make $1 million bet with anyone in the hedge fund industry, and they can pick their own hedge funds or basket of hedge funds. And I'll bet you over 10 years that the S&P 500 index.
Wait a minute. So wait. So this guy said, I'm so sure that this is going to be the case that he said, I will say this is going to make money over the next 10 years. And it will make more money than what you will say makes money over the next 10 years.
Right. Now it's phrased as a $1 million bet. So a little bit of trickery here. First of all, each person did not put down $1 million. Okay. Bet was for $1 million.
I gotcha.
And the total bet was set up so that the money they set aside would be worth $1 million 10 years later.
Right. Yeah.
They bought these things called zero coupon bonds. So they each put up about $300,000.
Okay.
So still real money, right?
Yeah.
And they made this bet. And what happened in the very first year, and I'm going back to the letter here so I can have actual data for you. The very first year of this bet was 2008.
Okay.
The S&P 500 index went down 37%.
Ooh. That doesn't seem like it would be very conducive to the bet that guy made.
Not a good way to start for you.
No.
The hedge funds, which the word hedge originally came from trying to hedge losses.
Yeah, you're hedging your bets.
That's right. They only lost about 24%. Oh, and the person that stepped forward was one of the people involved with a company called Protege Partners.
I was going to say, who was it that actually put forth the money for this bet?
If I have the name here. Good live radio here. Ted Seides,
Okay.
Seides.
Okay.
He's a founder of Protege Partners, which is one of the world's largest hedge fund companies.
Okay.
He said, I'll pick 5 different hedge funds, put them together, and I say those 5 hedge funds collectively will have a better return than the S&P 500 over the next 10 years.
Okay.
So the first year, the S&P 500 loses 37%,
right?
And the basket of hedge funds only lose 24%.
Okay.
So it looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to jump to the end because I don't want to spend all day on it. And if they want more fuller detail, of course, they can listen eventually on the Phil Ferguson show.
Yes. Yes, sir.
The end result, and this is where I get a little frustrated because I got tricked myself. The end result is the S&P 500 returned 7.1% per year for the last 10 years, and Protege returned 2.2% per year.
Ooh, how does that work out then? How do we reconcile?
So with those numbers, it means that Buffett crushed it. I mean, it's
okay.
Close. Now, the funny thing is that I shared this story because it's breaking news in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
That the S&P 500 returned an average of 7.1% per year for the last 10 years.
Yeah, isn't that everything that could be hoped for?
Well, that's a pretty good number. Yeah. I mean, the long-term norm for the U.S. stock market, the S&P 500 is the 500 biggest companies, so it's not everything.
Well, it's an average of like 5 or 9 to 10% or something like that. Or
well, it depending on the year, it can be anywhere from 65 to 75% of the U.S. stock market based on a market value of all the underlying companies.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a pretty good tool, and
it's an indicator at least.
Absolutely. And the normal return is about 10% a year.
Yeah.
And I read this number 7.1%, and I thought, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. And I went and checked the math, and for the year ending December 31st of 2017, days ago, right?
Okay, yeah.
The actual compound average return for the last 10 years for the S&P 500 was 8.5.
Yeah, well, that's not bad. Well, that's actually better.
Yeah, it's considerably better. And I thought, well, how do they have this wrong? And I found out everyone is citing the number that was available to them at the end of the year in 2016. No one bothered to check that this number wasn't accurate or current. They're using a year-old number, which is kind of sucky. But the actual number is 8.5% per year. And if you compound that over 10 years, the actual return is 126%. Now, the reported number for Protege Partners, which was a year old, was 2.2.
Yeah.
I extrapolated that, and I don't know if that this is correct or true, assuming based on the performance of the first 9 years and extrapolating that to the 10th, that they would have returned about 3.5% per year. And so you might hear 8.5 and 3.5 and say, well, they're only 5% different. It's not that big of a difference. But here's how the math works out, because most of us don't live in a world where we compound interest year after year after year.
No.
So it escapes us. So I'm going to put it to scale. So if you invested $1 million in the S&P 500 and you invested $1 million in these basket of hedge funds, 10 years later, if you had put it in the S&P 500, your 1 million would have turned into $2,260,000.
I'm almost afraid to ask. What would have been if I would have put that same amount of money into hedge funds, sir?
Well, if you put it into those 5 hedge funds, the amount you would have, let's see, where did I have this calculation? 10 years later would be $1,240,000.
So nowhere near.
Right. So the difference between the two numbers is about $1 million.
Yeah, about $1 million.
About $1 million. So you could look at it as, oh, it's only 5% a year. But that 5% is year after year after year after year.
$1 million makes a whole lot of difference, though.
And that's one of the things that for most people, when they invest, they don't underperform because they lose money from time to time, which they probably will.
Yeah.
They underperform because they don't make money when the market goes up. And so a lot of people get scared of the downside and they hedge, and it can be a hedge fund or.
So you're making bets against the fact that you might lose money. I get it. Hedge. You're hedging your bets. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, for sure.
If you're in retirement or close to retirement, you really should have some of your money more conservatively invested because you don't want to have to take out money when the market goes down 40%.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother philosophy and strategy. But the funny thing is that the guy who lost, and I have his quote here.
Right. So, yeah.
He said, my guess is that doubling down on a bet with Warren Buffett for the next 10 years would hold a greater than even odds of victory. And so I'm waiting for Warren to accept his gauntlet.
Accept it. Yeah.
Let's go again, buddy. Because this is a serious ass whooping. It went, Warren Buffett
doesn't even seem close there.
The index made the 1 million turned into 2.26 million. The other guy turned into 1.2 million.
When you're talking about I made twice as much money as you,
well, and
that's not.
Well, the net result is almost twice, but the amount made, the way you phrased it. See, I told you I was pedantic. I warned you. The amount of money that was made, Warren Buffett's investment made 1.26 million. The hedge funds made 240,000.
Yeah. So it's actually 10 times as much almost.
It's 5 times bigger. So it's staggeringly bigger amounts of money. And the guy's saying, now the guy knew he had lost because the bet officially ended a few days ago.
Yeah.
But back in May, the guy with the hedge funds, he conceded victory to Warren Buffett. He accepted his defeat, but then he went on with 6 reasons why he lost.
Yeah,
it was so sad.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
Was there anything that was legitimate in his objections to it?
I think the essence of each of his points has a little kernel of truth to it because like someone who's in religion, there's some things that are true and then they build an entire world around the little fragment.
It
becomes delusional.
Yeah.
Of course, the guy who runs Protege Partners is also highly.
Is that him?
Be right.
Is that him? Is that his?
That's Ted. Okay. I don't know how to say his last name. Seides. But if you want to Google this, you can look it up. And like I said, I found about 20 different stories, and it looked like every single one of them quoted a brand new story from the New York Times.
Yeah.
The problem I had is when I went to the New York Times, it's a paywall.
Oh shit!
So I couldn't see the source.
You have to pay for whatever it is you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. But they all kept saying a 7.1% per year number, and I knew the number was 8.5. And I finally figured out where it was. That's the number from last year. They didn't update the calculations. All the story with the errors in it.
Phil Ferguson, if you're put to the test, what are your best arguments?
Oh, are we talking religion here?
Yes.
What
are your best arguments?
One of the things that I like to do first is find out what the other person claims to be true. Because if you jump into a religious argument, it's very easy to make a really good, sound, and compelling argument, and the person goes, "Well, I don't believe that anyway."
Yeah, that's not my God.
Yeah, so basically you're pissing into the wind.
Yeah,
a really strong wind, and it's not very effective. So you do have to ask them what they believe, and I kind of go from there. But I do like a go-to is slavery.
Slavery is good.
Is very
Yeah.
reported in the Bible. The other thing I like to have, I learned this technique when I was in Arkansas for 2 years. When I would try to talk science to people in Arkansas, it didn't go very well.
No,
Because,
as it wouldn't.
yeah, if you talk to a 40-year-old and the last time they had science was when they were 15,
Yeah.
they don't understand it, and you talk past each other. They can't comprehend it. So that didn't work. And then I tried to attack biblical errors.
Okay.
And they have this thing called apologetics, which has nothing to do in its etymology with the word apology, but it sounds
no,
which cracks me up.
but you're like trying to apologize, like the apology of Plato, like so like, he was trying to say like this is the reason why I said this, and I'm sorry that it's not adequate, but this is what it is.
Yeah. And so I found out that apologetic arguments do not have to be good. They are good enough.
Yeah.
And so the believer makes this apologetic argument and they say, you know what? That's good enough for me. I'm convinced. Anyone on the outside is not convinced, but they've convinced themselves. So the argument is good enough. And so I wasn't having very much success with that. So what I then tried to do was adopt grand strategies. So, for example, in Arkansas, there was a lot of Christians who were very, very concerned about homosexuality, and that the Bible is very clear that homosexuality is a sin. And in Exodus, 18:23, I think it is.
Yeah.
That's
actually very good. Yeah.
Leviticus 18:23 or somewhere in that ballpark.
It was Leviticus. Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably Leviticus.
When a man lies with a man as if he was to lie with a woman, it
is an abomination.
And they shall surely both drown in their own blood.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty clear. You got to die.
Yeah.
Now, you could read that Bible verse as simply position guidance, because if two men lie as if they were one was a woman, it's not going to work very well.
Yeah.
Just get swordplay. So maybe it's just sexual position advice.
Yeah.
Assuming that that's not the case, it's pretty clear. So I would have a Christian tell me that. And I said, okay, in that same part of Leviticus, it says that if you eat shellfish, it's an abomination. If you wear fabrics, it's an abomination. If you plant two different crops in the same field, however one defines the same field, it's an abomination.
Yes.
If your child talks back to you, you are obligated
to take him to the edge of town and stone him to death. Yeah.
Only the men know. We learned that from Monty Python. I ask if they do all these things, and they say no. And then I say, well, then you suck as a Christian.
Yeah. Then you don't.
The most offensive thing you can tell somebody in Arkansas is they're not Christian enough.
Ooh. Yeah.
So I want to create this cognitive dissonance. The other fun thing I love to do, and I've done this a few times with friends and family at the home, I often will have a Bible or like a Dawkins book on the coffee table.
Yeah.
And someone will come over and they see the Bible and they go, "Oh, I see the Bible here, Phil. I thought you were an atheist." "Oh, why do you think I'm an atheist? I read that thing." And they're like, "Okay, really, Phil, tell me one thing that is in there that doesn't make sense." So, okay, I got one for you. We're going to talk about Moses, right? Moses went up the mountain and met God, which you can't do because you'll die, but he did. He met him anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
And God used his magical finger and carved on stone tablets, front and back, 42 rules.
Okay.
And Moses brought those down and saw that his people had turned against God and they were worshiping a golden idol. It never says calf, by the way, just a golden idol.
Oh, yeah. And
Moses has a hissy fit and smashes the stone tablets so no one can ever read them, although he did write it down, apparently.
Yeah.
No one's ever able to read them. And they collect up the dust and they put it into the Ark of the Covenant, which is what's inside of that. And they take the golden idol and they grind it into gold dust. Now,
they grinded it into gold dust?
Yeah. And so first of all, gold doesn't make dust very well. It makes flakes.
No, yeah. It's malleable. It's malleable and not, yeah.
Yeah, it's tactile. Just buy a bottle of Goldschlager. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then Moses casts gold dust across the waters, all the water that they have available to drink. And He had everybody
Okay.
drink of it, and it cast a spell of confusion over the crowd. And then Moses instructed them to take their swords and lash them to their sides. So they're tying their swords to their waist, sticking out sideways, and look for your friends and family. I call it the world's first friends and family plan. And they do this and they walk around until they kill 3,000 of their closest friends.
Yeah.
And then the spell wears off. And then Moses goes, fuck you all. I'm going to go back up and get the rules again.
Yeah.
And he meets with God a second time. And God says, well, fucker, I'm all shagged out from carving down.
From doing it the first time, right? Like, why the fuck would I do it again?
So now you have to do it, bitch. Right? And so Moses fizzles out and he pusses out and he only comes up with 10 rules.
Oh.
And this is the only time in the Bible it says 10 commandments.
Right. Yeah.
And
this is the only Decalogue.
And
right?
he brings them down, and they're not what you think is in any courthouse or church. For example,
no. Not the ones that are, it's not the ones that are like put up on 10 Commandments monuments.
No, it like has every male child must appear before me once a year.
Yeah, and don't boil a goat in its mother's milk and shit. That's like that.
Right.
Yeah, my
personal favorite, 10 of 10. Right? Thou shalt not feed a kid in its mother's milk. It's fucking culinary instructions.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, don't commit genocide in my name.
Like, thou shalt not rape is not there. Right? Like, you know, just don't boil a kid in its mother's milk.
The moon
rape is not there.
It's about how to cook a fucking baby goat.
Yeah.
That's the 10th most important thing he can share with humanity.
Yeah.
And I tell people this grand story, and they're like, that is not in the Bible. And
no, it totally is.
Well, have a seat, my friend. I'm going to open up this Gideon's Bible I got free from the hotel, one free with each night's stay. And we open it up and we start reading it, and they sit there and they read it and they read it and they read it and they read it and they go, holy fuck. And I go, now you should read the entire thing from beginning to end. And they're like, no, thanks. And they put it back down on the table and they want to continue being a Christian.
They're like, I'm done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't read the rest of that. I'm not going to read it. You know, we have busy lives. We have a lot of obligations, a lot of things to do. And one of the big mistakes I have seen atheists make is assuming that Christians are stupid. That is wrong. That is wrong. Their intelligence level is approximately the same as people who are non-religious. They may not have the skepticism level that the non-believer does, or they may have family pressure. But you have to treat them with respect and dignity and assume that they are intelligent. Matter of fact, some of the most annoying Christians are the really, really intelligent ones who have created their own personal narrative that might actually be internally consistent, yet completely detached from reality.
Well, let me ask you something then.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that just because when I started to identify as an atheist, I didn't feel like that I just gained a whole bunch of like intelligence points.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel like I just got that much smarter just because I identified as an atheist. I mean, like, am I going in the right direction there? Is that like
absolutely right? And the thing is that I have been to probably close to 100 atheist or secular or skeptical or whatever convention.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are atheists that have come to what I think is the correct conclusion about religion, about Christianity, about a deity.
Yeah.
But when you talk about some other subject, holy fucking shit.
There's no guarantee that they think skeptically about anything else.
And one of the, apparently now my favorite, of course, is Bitcoin. But before that, the one that would come up at atheist conventions more than it should ever is 9/11 trutherism.
What about flat earthers? Have you taken any flat earthers down?
I have not. I have met some people who claim to be serious about it. It's one of those things like my wife will explode if she hears one more time the difference between atheist and agnostic from a quantitative standpoint, you know, the dictionary definition.
Yeah.
So she will walk out of the room. I love it. I'll do it over and over. I'll argue the Bible. I don't know. I've got issues. I love doing that. But when someone brings up 9/11, I'm just like, nope. I'm way too fucking.
She's right there with it though in that case though.
No. She won't do that either.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
I'm making the contrast for myself. I will
Oh,
argue about the Bible until my end of days. But
Yeah.
9/11. I'm like, I can't. Or same
You're
thing.
like, there's not anything I can do to convince you here.
Yeah.
Like,
So wrong. I can't hardly breathe oxygen around you. I must leave the room. I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, I got you.
Sometimes it's incredibly intelligent people, and they've looked and they found these anomalies that they don't understand. And just for the listeners, anomalies are not evidence. Yeah. The other one is personal experience is not evidence.
Anecdotes are not evidence either.
Yep.
Yes. I have to ask you this because this is one of the things that we ask everybody. But you just be prepared for this. What was the last major, I say major issue that you have changed your mind on literally recently? And why did you change your mind on it?
I used to think that Donald Trump was not the best president ever. No, I'm kidding.
What did he say? He said Trump. He said Trump. All right.
So the good example I go to, I used to think that every psychic was 100% a scammer and they knew it.
Psychics. Yes. Psychics.
Now, I learned about a thing called cold reading. It's the process where you can determine things about people by observing their gestures, the kind of car that they drove in, the kind of shoes that they wear, things like that. And then you can give them leading answers and they start to fill out the information for you.
Yeah.
And I did it a few times with a level of success that kind of fucked me up. It blew my mind. And I was genuinely disturbed by what I could get from somebody by doing cold reading.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how this works. I know why it works. And it's still kind of freaking me out. If I had no idea what cold reading was, but I was just doing it, I could see how I could convince myself, because I sure as fuck would convince the people I'm talking to, because I did it, that I had some kind of gift.
Ooh.
And so it's very easy for us as humans to trick ourselves. And so I think there are some psychics, not all of them, mind you, but there are some psychics that generally think they have some ability that they can't explain. They don't know how it works. They don't know why it works.
You think they generally don't, they're not trying to necessarily dupe people, but they actually think that they have these abilities?
I will safely say that there are people who claim to have psychic abilities that genuinely think they have a gift and they intend to help people.
Okay. Well, we did a four-part takedown of psychics on our show.
Bullshit. They don't understand that. But there are people who are on TV who are fucking charlatans and they know it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if I name any one individual person, I could be wrong because I don't really know what's going on in their head.
Yeah.
But I would be willing to wager that the vast majority of people on TV as psychics know what they're doing, and they know it's a scam, and they know it's a bullshit, and they're out for money.
Yeah.
But there are people, especially if they're, running a small business or they're helping on the side, that genuinely, truly believe in error, but they genuinely, truly believe that they have an ability and they have the best intentions in mind, and they just want to help people.
The existence of God is proven. There's no questions. It's been demonstrated. It's apparent and self-evident to every living being on the planet. How does that change your life?
Well, first of all, I'm going to ask for my own hammer from Thor.
Okay.
So, of course, it depends on which god. And if it's
okay.
Yeah. If it's Yahweh, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I may be convinced, and I will have to acknowledge that I'm no longer an atheist because I believe that they are there.
Yeah, like it's there. You have to admit it.
But
Would you worship that
I would
being?
not. No,
Not as it's presented in the Bible, right?
not the God that's presented in the Bible. He's a son of a bitch. And if that means I don't bow down and worship him, if I don't bow down and worship Kim Jong-il, if it means I get killed, then I get killed.
Good answer. That's
yeah.
me and you both on that one. I think
you have that hammer thing though.
Yeah. All right.
I could work with
plugs, shout outs, upcoming events. What do you got for me, man?
Let's see. Plugs. The podcast is The Phil Ferguson Show. You can find The Phil Ferguson Show and me, the original Phil Ferguson, on Facebook, both of us.
There you go.
I'm on Twitter occasionally. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's at Skeptic Money.
Go Money.
The old blog that I did for a while. I do go to a lot of conventions, and the next one that I know and have confirmed and bought and everything for is the American Atheist Convention.
American Atheist Convention.
At the end of March into April 1st, I will be there. I will have a table, and I used to do tabling to get more clients for my business, which is Polaris Financial Planning.
Polaris Financial Planning.
But after 10 years of hustling atheists and secularists, my business has grown to the point where most people I turn away as prospective clients.
All right. We already linked your show in the description of the podcast.
Good problem to have, I guess, right?
Yes, that's a really pretty good problem to have. Yeah. We very much are honored and very humbled and are appreciative of your willingness to come on the show, talk to us, answer our questions, be pedantic with us, and answer every little thing that we asked of you. You were very gracious. Phil Ferguson, the man, the myth, the legend. Don't be a stranger. Please come back sometime. Talk to us again. Sir, you are a very welcome guest. Thank you, and very much welcome on the show anytime.
Thank you for having me, and it was a great honor to be on your show, The Atheist Edge. It rocks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, good night.